Dan said he was gonna be able to. Yeah, Dan said he. Wait, he's probably got.
Stay good to go. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Parks and Planning Committee meeting for Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. Go for attendance. We'll start off the meeting with the roll call. Ms. Ripso?
Councilmember Clark. I'm excited to be here. Councilmember Dodwell.
I'm here.
Councilmember Bertoni.
Here.
Chair Galani.
Here.
Councilmember Marshall.
Present.
Councilmember Ottenberg.
Here.
Councilmember Rambo.
Here.
Councilmember Flasher. And we have quorum.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And once again, welcome everybody and thank you for joining us tonight. And first off on the agenda, we'll start off with the approval of the minutes from the committee's meeting of Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Councilmember,
Motion to approve minutes.
Councilmember Rotberg, second. All right, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, very good. That takes us into the next item of the agenda for the meeting, which is public participation. We've got several speaker cards here for folks that would like to speak. I would just ask that to make things easier, when I call your name to speak, just say your ward and your address and your ward, and you can just stand up where you are. You don't have to come up here to the front or anything like that. We'll make it easy. And we'll go from there. And I would ask that anyone who's not speaking, in order to keep things moving and keep it cordial, that we don't have any comments or questions during the process. And if anybody would like to speak and has not filled out a speaker card, please do so now and we'd be happy to have you speak. So with that being said, I will start out with the first speaker this evening, which would be Tracy Henson.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Tracy. I'm from Ward 6. I'm a Questover Canyon neighborhood. Here to talk about PZ 1823. So just when considering research and development agriculture, we need to look at similar sites in neighboring cities, resources in our community, and our region's unique geography. Similar cities, Creve Coeur has Benson Hill and the Danforth Plant Science Center. The city resembles a corporate campus. Attached to those greenhouses are industrial heating and cooling equipment that HVAC professionals describe as having the sound and power of a plane's jet engine. This site also has a retention pond, but it does not share property with a named creek. Importantly, this property and its neighbors are not on well water, so they are on city water, which is monitored daily by the county's health department. Now let's talk about Monsanto Bayer, the Chesterfield campus. This is a scar on the entire county. The grow lights needed for their operation pollute the night sky. A beacon of light can be seen from all over the county at all hours of the day. Their greenhouse operation is tucked into a so-called forested buffer zone, yet we can still see the light from miles away. Any trip down Clayton Clarkson, when you're heading northbound, you can see those lights. I am fortunate to get to go to work sometimes at 2 in the morning. I see those lights at 2 in the morning. I see them every Saturday and Sunday at 4 a.m. Their operation does vary, but anytime you're heading northbound, you see the beacon of light. That's coming from the Monsanto Bayer Chesterfield campus. Resources in our community. For Wildwood homes dependent on well water, research and development agriculture brings a threat for contamination that we not have otherwise faced. Our water is not tested daily, so if contamination occurred, we really wouldn't know right away, unlike on city water that's tested daily. So who knows how long we could unknowingly ingest potentially dangerous chemicals, ones that companies think are safe but end up killing people, just like Roundup, the herbicide, did. We also don't have the enforcement resources here in Wildwood, leaving the neighbors to police lighting, noise, erosion, and any other land use issue that arises when a corporation moves into a small community. Our geography here is beautiful. We have rolling hills, bluffs, creeks, and streams. We are not a flat city that lends itself to a corporate campus environment. Drainage is a problem now in Wildwood, and it probably always will be. Wildwood needs to protect what we have and not add more concrete. Otherwise, we will end up with swollen creeks and even more erosion issues. Please protect Wildwood by allowing no greenhouse lighting outside of daylight hours, limiting HVAC equipment to what can be used for a typical home, allowing no research and development within 5 miles of homes dependent on well water, raising fines for operating outside of Wildwood code, requiring companies to carry insurance that protects Wildwood and its residents from any forms of contamination. The EPA is out of money. Do not allow LLCs to conduct R&D. They can abandon properties with no liability. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Next on the list, we have a speaker card from Lynn Link.
Hello, I'm Lynn Link and I'm Ward 6. And PZ 1823 would amend existing zoning codes to allow for quote agricultural research and development activities within non-urban residential zones in all wards in Wildwood. It must be stressed that this is too broad of a term and that companies like Solus AgriScience do not perform agriculture, they perform biotechnology. While agricultural zones do exist in our non-urban residential areas, agriculture is defined as, quote, practice of cultivating the soil, growing or raising livestock. Solus states that it performs plant transformation services, the design, production, and characterization of gene-edited transgenic plants, plasmid construction, genotyping, gene expression confirmation, and grow-out services. Biotechnology is defined as, quote, the use of living cells and bacteria in industrial and scientific processes. Biotechnology requires oversight of the FDA, USDA, and EPA, and may require special federal permit even to move their products, which are not FDA approved. By now, the committee members should have received our 22-page document unifying public concerns and research regarding the risks of agriscience biotechnology. Residential zones are established to protect family residences from increased risk that posed by industry. Removing this protection to allow agriscience biotechnology laboratory facilities to operate within residential zoning and near our thousands of acres of land preserves increases the risk to our citizens and the environment. How would the city ensure nearby residents that they have wells, who have wells, that they and the environment will be protected? Solus AgriScience purchased the land and closed Far Retail Greenhouse, which was allowed within residential zone via legacy clause. Solus applied for the conditional use permit to operate an AgriScience greenhouse, which was not approved as no zoning exists for agricultural research and development or biotechnology. Although they do not even have a business license, there are new people and there are plants in the greenhouse and their lights are on now throughout the night. In the case of Lamar Company versus the City of Columbia, the Court of Appeals, Eastern District of Missouri, opined legacy clauses do not transfer to new owners, even if operating the same type of business. If they don't possess a conditional use permit or a business license, why isn't the city stopping them? If they can't stop Solus now, how can we expect them to stop other companies in ordinance violation in the future? Biomass is a company that prepares municipalities to attract biotech companies. They recommend that facilities be in, quote, commercial and industrial areas with municipal water and sewer systems, and have a point of contact at City Hall to assist in biotech project, and that the municipality's Board of Health has adopted the NIH guidelines on recombinant DNA activities as part of their legislation. As we don't even have a Department of Health, I contacted Rachel Scott Carson at St. Louis County Department of Health, Public Health Environmental Health Lab to see if she was familiar with the 149 pages of NIH guidelines on recombinant DNA technology. She replied that neither she or anyone else she knew at St. Louis County was familiar with these guidelines. After speaking with her for over half an hour, I got the impression she was deeply concerned that Wildwood would even be considering allowing biotech facilities without any of the necessary oversight to protect our citizens and the environment. So what kind of oversight will Wildwood put in place, and what will be the anticipated cost to the citizens? Employees and owners of Solus have a past history of working for companies that have had to pay billions of dollars in settlement for causing harm to humans and the environment. Startups like Solus do not have billions, and they are LLCs designed to protect their owners from liability from any damage done by their company. Pierce Biotech posted an article stating, quote, "More biotech companies have filed for bankruptcy in 2023 than any year since 2010. Could we be left with an abandoned greenhouse and hit with the cost of cleaning it up? Could a flood or tornado expose our environment to a release of experimental plants that are genetically enhanced to be superior to natural plants? How will the city ensure residents won't bear the burden of the cost with potential damages? Wildwood cannot afford another Bliss Callahan disaster costing lives and irreparable damage to the environment. And even after decades and millions of dollars later, being faced with the realization that the land will never be safe. Allowing biotechnology in wards of Wildwood would, with no possible oversight, exponentially increases the risk to our citizens and public lands. Biotechnology laboratories are not safe anywhere in Wildwood. I just have a few questions. I'm not sure how you answer them. Like, do you answer them at the end, or are you gonna send us?
Yeah, so you can ask your questions and
Okay.
and you can direct them to anyone you want, but this isn't a Q&A at this point. This is just public participation. So
Okay,
there'll be a presentation during the meeting by the department, and there'll be a discussion within the committee. And it goes from there, and
so
then any
should I
council member
do
can,
the
you can email anyone
I
you
can
like,
just-
or any
just-
council member can reach out to you after.
Okay, I just have three real quick
Sure.
questions. So, like, when did Solus first contact the city with regard to obtaining a conditional use permit? Who was the contact person from Solus making the initial inquiry? And who did they contact at the city? And, exactly when was that first made? And how do we obtain an actual copy? Is there like a request for the, conditional use permit? Is there somebody that it goes through?
You can make a request to the city for any information or questions answered.
So to whom at the city?
Director Vunich?
City
clerk.
Yeah.
City clerk, okay.
Okay,
City
okay,
clerk.
thank you so much.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much. And actually, the one thing I didn't mention at the beginning of the public participation is that we'd like to limit it to 5 minutes, which actually you did perfectly. So congratulations. You finished right on the dot. So thank you very much for your comments. Next on the list I have is David Knoll.
Hello, my name is David Knoll. I'm in Ward 6. During the fall period of time, I participated in a number of meetings with the Planning and Zoning Commission having to do with the agricultural research and development, the general one, and also the one for Solus. During that time, Mayor Jim Boland mentioned that he wanted 5 things addressed in that conditional use permit, and now I would imagine they would go into the document that you folks are going to prepare. He wanted to address marijuana, water contamination, lighting, traffic, and noise. My recommendation would be, as Tracy had said previously, that this agricultural research and development facility not be located within 5 miles from the nearest residence. I would also like to see the light ordinance that already exists in the city of Wildwood, number 415.450, included in that document, because there's quite a bit of information in there on the amount of light that's allowed to pass the property line limits. And I would also like to see that this facility is not located upstream of any residence. So those are the items I'd like to see considered. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Next on the list I have is Jean Bedvig.
Thank you. Jean Bedvig, Ward 4. First, I wanted to ask, when you first heard or decided to consider a zoning change, I'm not talking about the conditional use, the zoning change. And then the other thing is that my experience with a lot of the council members that are here from years ago and myself is, you have to ask yourself, regarding this zoning change from a non-urban residential, what is the benefit of the zoning change for the property owners? Like the property owners like Mr. Sapp, the Hayes, Dolchecki, the folks that are here, Mr. Kelp, these are all people who were at previous meetings and spoke at previous meetings or submitted written comments. What would the benefit for them be to put in a development like this right next door to their property? In the past, when developers have come and wanted to put in subdivisions in the non-urban residential district, we have a tool that can be used called PRD for clustering homes so as to not do a whole scalping of the hill or whatever, you know, to put the houses together. A lot of the residents don't even like that tool. And so my question again is, if I'm the, let's pick out a name here. If I'm the Hayes and you make this zoning change, what is the benefit of this zoning change to the Hayes? Or the Kelps or Mr. Sapp? Or any of the folks that are sitting here? What is the benefit of changing that land use? The other thing is that it would be helpful to explain how many meetings will occur as a result of this request and consideration. So I'm just gonna theorize that it's gonna go from this committee. Now, I read Joe's recommendation to have another meeting, and then discussion will occur there. Then it'll go from your committee to the council, and I'll need to be corrected if I'm in the wrong steps here, Joe. Once it goes to the council, then there would be a recommendation, an ordinance, a first reading and a second reading. Just so that it's hard for folks that aren't up here all the time to understand the steps that a process goes through. So again, let's take that and flip that question from what's the benefit to the residents? Actually, what is the benefit to the city if the non-urban residential district is allowed to have this activity? And if you're going to change it and allow I'm going to just call it a commercial endeavor, and I'll probably need to be, you know, corrected. Maybe it's not a commercial endeavor, but what would be the difference if somebody came and said, hey, we want to go to the non-urban district, and we want to put in a hot dog manufacturing plant, or I want to open up a cement factory right next to the Kelp's house, or a big truck repair would work out real well for me. Maybe even a pawn shop. So if you're going to open up the protected zoning, that's why we have the town center, is to put the activity in town center that benefits all the retail and commercial opportunities that the city needs for the residents and for a revenue stream. So what would the benefit be to not just the citizens, but to the city? It's certainly not going to be a real economic benefit. And we incorporated, one of the main things we incorporated for was to protect the tree canopy and to protect the environment and the natural waterways. So these kind of activities in the non-urban residential district are protected now. If the zoning changes, I don't know that we can say they would be as protected as they are right now today. So some of the, you know, it's great with all the new council members, and then we have some that have been around a while. And so those are some of the questions. And so what would the benefit be to the population in that area? And realize this isn't about Solis, because this would be an opportunity to take this business type model in any other area of the city that's non-urban. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. And next on the list, I have Tony Salvatore.
Tony Salvatore, Ward 2. It's kind of mind boggling. Just a couple of months ago, we had over 200 people here and they all totally against any of this. And now we're bringing it back up. And I told them, I said, look, it's going to happen because we have in power right now. We're going to make it happen with Solus coming in. Don't shake your head, please. Okay? Just listen to the people, all right? Thank you. Why would the city want to change the non-urban definition other than to help companies like Solus Biotech an easier pathway to a conditional use permit? And here's the thing, how have we survived since 1995 having this master plan in place with non-urban definition? And why now? Why now, just before an election? Are they afraid that something's going to happen at the election time and they're not going to go ahead and get what they were promised? This is just a continuing destruction of our master plan. And I hate to say this, but maybe there's some pay to play here because there's been a lot of pay to play with Mr. Bowen and others here too. I don't know if there was any pay to play here with the others, but we know there is with Mr. Bowen. And I think you all should be ashamed. Listen to the people of Wildwood. You're not listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. And that's the last speaker card. Is there anybody else that did not fill out a speaker card that would like to? And Ms. Rubito, do we have anybody online that would like to speak? No? Okay, well, thank you very much once again for all of you that came here tonight and spoke your piece, and we enjoy that, and that's one of the ways the city functions, and so we applaud it, appreciate it. Love to hear from you. So with that being said, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which are the action items, and that takes us to the first item on action, which is the planning matters. We have 4 items ready for consideration. The first being the research and development activities, and then non-urban residence district of Wildwood, which was a referral from city council and includes all wards. And Director Vunich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, the first item tonight under planning matters, as was just described by the chair, relates to a referral from city council of the matter relating to a new conditional use to be added to the NU non-urban resident district. And that new conditional use, as described to the Planning and Zoning Commission, was agriculture, research and development activities. Just a bit of background. This particular matter went to the Planning and Zoning Commission in the fall of 2023. Advertisements were prepared for an October 2nd public hearing, as I recall. And ultimately, the public hearing was conducted. As the process proceeded forward through the rest of 2023 and then into early 2024, there was a number of discussions held, and ultimately, kind of paralleling that matter was the conditional use permit request, the specific request from Solus Agriscience. Ultimately, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that the non-urban resident district not be changed with the addition of the new conditional use. And given the fact that the non-urban district didn't have the new conditional use, denied the request from Solus Agriscience. As with any action by the Planning and Zoning Commission, those reports are forwarded to City Council for receipt and filing. And when that receipt and filing occurred, there was a request to forward the change to the non-urban resident district to this committee. And so tonight, the department is recommending a process. As you can see, there are a number of people that are very passionate about this because it's next to their home, in their neighborhood, or nearby. And the thought was asking the committee with as much information as we could provide available to them, but not having the time necessarily to review the videos from all of the different meetings, look at the comments from the participants in those meetings, primarily the residents in the vicinity, as well as those that represented the business Solus Agriscience. The department thought it would be appropriate tonight to talk about setting either our next meeting in April for that discussion, where we can then bring the committee members up to speed, so to speak, on all of the intricacies that went along with this particular discussion. And then comfortable, the committee can make a recommendation then, or if they want to, wait until the next meeting to formalize that recommendation to set the city council. I think it's incumbent on the committee members to have the ample amount of time to basically prepare recommendation to city council. I think it's only fair to the residents that have invested quite a lot of time at different meetings. And I only think it's fair to all of you to have as much information as you have to make that recommendation. As I've noted, the Planning and Zoning Commission did not support this, and that vote occurred at this beginning of this year. And thereafter, just as a process, as we pull that thread, ultimately it could take up to 2 meetings for the committee to complete its task. And after the committee's completed its task, as we typically do, this would go to city council as a work session item, and it would be for action. And then depending on the consideration of the full city council, it could either be then prepared for legislation or not. So ultimately, it could be as short as a 3-meeting process or up to 5 meetings process if there is legislation there. Again, the department is offering this process to basically make sure whatever decision is made, you have the information you need. And everyone in the community relative to this particular item has an opportunity to participate. And so if there are any questions of the department.
So Joe, just to clarify, the department's making a recommendation to postpone this to the next meeting, a specific meeting, or just a future meeting indefinitely?
It could be our next meeting, and if it is the next meeting, Melanie and I would probably scale back the agenda in the event there's a number of people that attend that want to speak, recognizing that our 2-hour limit is, after about 2 hours, it's hard to sit there and listen, and it's probably at 8:30 at night, not the best time to make an important decision. Or if you want to set a special meeting, it could be sometime in the span of April, post-election, obviously, since the election is April 2nd. We certainly wouldn't want to interfere with that night. So from the perspective of the committee, it's really your call. We'll tailor the agenda so you're not here all night if it's our regular meeting. And if it's a special meeting, then we can have up to 2 hours, our normal, consider.
Do I have a motion by anybody to table this to at least the April meeting or possibly thereafter? Councilmember Martoni?
Yeah, I'll make that motion, and can I have a question?
Sure.
Also, should we get,
Well, actually, let's do the motion
Let's
in
get
a
a
second, then we'll do
second.
discussion. Do I have a second? Councilmember Dodwell? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor that's been seconded. Now it's up for discussion, so I have a
okay,
question.
and I don't have any discussion. I just think that this is a great idea because I think we could be here till midnight and ask you questions, probably the same questions, and you're not gonna have most of the answers or anything. But I just do want to make it clear for everybody in the room. A request for more information is by no means a decision either way.
I would concur wholeheartedly, and as you know, we've debated issues here, most recently at our February meeting. The department had a recommendation relative to a contractor. Ultimately, the decision of the committee was different than that, but it didn't come just on the spur of the moment or with the snap of the fingers. We spent the better part of an hour, 15 minutes going through each and every component so that you all had the best understanding. And I think we ended up with a great decision, quite frankly.
Councilmember Dodwell?
I want to repeat what Councilmember Bartoni just said, and that our goal tonight is to ensure that we gather as much information as possible. The council wants to understand wholeheartedly what the potential zoning changes would impact, who they would impact. So I appreciate all of you coming this evening and speaking about your concerns and what's important to you. I think I'm going to speak for myself, but I think for everybody here tonight on the council side and the staff side, our goal is to protect our environment, protect our citizenry to every extent we have possible. So part of the reason that this question came back to this committee was because we wanted to more fully understand it from a council perspective and ensure that we were including all components we felt necessary in addition to the planning and zoning committee, so that we continued to support our original intent of incorporation. So
Thank you very much. Councilmember Clark?
For the motion. Yeah, I agree with all of that. That's really helpful to lay that out. But, I just see this as, you know, you're gonna have a lot of things together because of all of the comments that were made and looking at the current code that we have, assessing it, potential issues that might come up if you're gonna look at case studies, and what our focus is for the city in the long run. To just to consider all of those things as we go forward. The motion to go ahead with it in at the next meeting seems to me a little soon. I would feel more comfortable giving you 60 days to, I mean, you can tell me I'm wrong, but I just feel more comfortable giving 60 days to make sure that all of that information is gathered together before coming back and say, you know, because we want to look at this and make sure that all of the definitions are clarified, you know, there's clarity in it, in the code, so that we know exactly, you know, how to proceed. The location that this is going to go to, is it gonna go just the non-urban, or are we gonna, you know, move it, push it into some urban areas or something? Is this gonna be affect people, personal property, if they decide to do something for their personal use and it happens to be some of this the activities that was done in a business type of environment. Just, there's so many things that go through my head that need to be gathered together for this. And I think your steps are good that you've got laid out in the write-up. I just think that it may take more time and to make sure that all of that's together before we start, you know, getting into it without all the information.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Rambo?
Yeah, lots of folks have lots of concerns. Rather than address them all now, we'll be here till midnight. I just want to make a quick comment. First, Joe, though, is it a fair statement to say that we have a great CUP process that has developed over the course of the last 30 years, and this SOLAS approval process took longer and was more cumbersome and disruptive than it needed to be because we didn't have the right category in the ordinance? Is that a fair statement?
Statement, and from my perspective, has two parts. The first is, do we have a robust CUP process? And I wholeheartedly say yes. And I say that because when you drive around the city, I don't think most people realize there are a lot of CUPs that have been granted, and they integrate well into the community. We have infrastructure to serve it. And all in all, they're assets to the community, not anything that would, in my opinion, be detrimental. Saying that, we have a lot of telecommunications towers, which are conditional use permits, but the federal and state government kind of tied our hands on those. But we've made the best of those by concealing them, disguised support structures, and doing things that I hope ultimately make them less an eyesore and more of an asset for the overall community, whether it's bringing wireless communications, cell phone service, et cetera, et cetera. The second part, I have to maybe point a finger at Solus Agriscience. Because as we were developing the discussion on the change to the non-urban district, and they were paralleling us with this conditional use permit, I never felt like I've gotten all the information I needed. And it was always to the behest of, we have a lighting ordinance, well, give it to us. I provided it to them, and never got a response back relative to what they could or couldn't do, or a detailed response. Enough to basically be able to make a qualified and intelligent assessment. So I don't want to kick a person down when they're down, but guess I'm saying what made it cumbersome, and I think what has elevated the fear level, if that's the right word, in the community, is the details were few and far between. And more times than not, I felt they were saying, just trust us.
Right. So this, I want to reassure the folks back here that this is in the interest of reworking the ordinance, not to relitigate Solus. They're going to shut their lights off in March and probably will go away because the site is not suitable for their activities and so on and so forth. So that's the victory that you folks were looking for. Right now, they still have ownership. The previous owner is involved. I would hate to see the city exposed to a lawsuit because that costs everyone. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes money, and it's vague and it can drag out for years. And so the idea would be that we add additional criteria to the ordinance so that we can just hand anyone that's interested in doing agricultural research and development, maybe on an existing farm elsewhere in Wildwood. Here you go. Here are the list of criteria that you have to meet. And we asked for, when we met the homeowners over there, I was expecting to meet one homeowner. We met like 20. So there's real interest in making sure that this place goes away. I think it has gone away, but I created a list. I'm just going to read 8 things here. Lighting issues, including but not limited to hours, intensity, wavelengths, and directions. Emissions and contaminants, including particles and vapors in local air, water, and soil. Noise concerns, trucks, cars, on-site loaders and agricultural machines, pumps, ventilation, etc. Highway T truck traffic, including hours, volume, peak times, and parking. Employee, client, and visitor presence and traffic, as in 4 above. Runoff, erosion, and added creek volume. Well and groundwater contamination, appearance and aesthetic concerns, and other concerns. That's the list that we were looking for at the meeting. And I think there may be others. If you have any, I'd love to hear them, or we'd love to hear them. But the fact is, there are some real environmentalists on council who would die before they approved something that was inappropriate in any of these senses or any other sense. That's just the reality. I think I said that pretty strongly last time we met. I would die on that hill. So I'm trying to reassure you folks that this is not to let Solus in under the tent, so to speak. This is to make it easier to ensure that all your criteria that you specified are met if there's any other such proposals. That's it.
Thank you very much. Councilman Rottenberg?
I agree with Councilmember Clark's suggestion that we have approximately a 60-day period delaying discussion until May. So I was going to ask Councilmember Clark if she wants to offer an amendment to the motion that's been seconded. I would second her.
Make an amendment.
And I will second it.
Okay. So the amended motion on the floor is to postpone this to the May meeting. And I actually was going to bring that up as well for the purposes that Councilmember Clark brought up, but also because you brought this up, Director Bunish, that obviously with the election in April, there's going to be different members on this committee. And so I think it's also incumbent upon us to make sure that those new members are able to have ample time to be brought up to speed on the issue. and research all of the information that's out there and that the committee brings to the table as opposed to getting installed and then having to make a decision a week later, or having to review it. So I think at the very least, taking this out to the May meeting would make most sense. And so we've got that motion. Councilmember Clark, do you have a discussion on that motion?
I do, and I'm gonna try to make this pertain to the amendment. If you have the 60 days, my question to you is, do you need an ad hoc committee help to gather all of that, or would that just be more cumbersome?
I would never say assistance from any of the city council or any of our board commission task force members is cumbersome. But at this stage, probably would need a week or so, to talk with Mr. Newberry, Ms. Ripito, and then probably get back to the committee and explain either, yes, I think it would be beneficial, or no, I think we can make a lot of strides on our.
I was gonna say, Director Vunich, also, if we take this out to the May meeting, obviously, that's the tentative earliest case. If for some reason in the process of gathering additional information and putting the presentation together for the committee, you find that additional time is necessary, then obviously please feel free to bring that concern to the committee's attention at the May meeting or the April meeting to say, hey, we're seeing a lot here. Because once again, in full transparency to everybody that took time to come here tonight, we want to make sure we get this right and we have all the information on the table and everybody's able to make a thoroughly informed decision and everyone has the opportunity to speak their mind. So I think, once again, let's the motion on the floor is to take this to the May meeting. Do you have a question or
Just
comment?
discussion. I mean, you can get your first and second, we can still discuss it.
Yeah, we have the first and second. So do we have
Sure.
additional
Yeah,
discussion?
I'd
Go
just
ahead.
like to clarify what we're looking at from this committee is we're looking at developing the guidelines for a zoning classification. This is not site specific to the Old Forest Nursery or to Solus. This is totally all over the city. Could be down in the industrial area. It's not a site specific. That's not our role. Our role is to come up with the guidelines and it'll go from there. If it goes forward, it may not, you know.
As the department and this committee does further research, the initial thoughts on using the non-urban resident district as a potential area for this conditional use may fail. And the recommendation out of the committee may be, it was an idea that had its moment in the sun, but probably after further review, it's not. All I can assure you is that from your all's perspective, if Solus Agri-Science creeps into your thoughts, don't. We're going to be closing the loop on that. I've heard from two different parties that they've already admitted that they're stepping back. This isn't the site that they thought it would be. But from the perspective of the city, they need something formal from the department saying you're in violation if you continue to operate and that you have a reasonable amount of time to close operations. And that reasonable amount of time isn't a year, it is much less than that, trust me. But again, we're looking at just the overall non-urban resident district.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, with that being said, we've got a motion and a second. So all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstain? Any opposed?
Thank
Right,
you.
motion passes. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, we have the Center Avenue Utility Relocation and Easement Acquisition for Ward 8. Director Vunich.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, the Department of Public Works and the Department of Planning, along with the city administrator, have been meeting on a continual basis relative to Center Avenue. The most recent set of meetings that were held between those parties was with our engineering consultant, Doria Engineering, and several of the utilities that provide service in that general vicinity. What we're finding is that despite the indication of rights from the 21 property owners to the city and some dedications that occurred for new development, we're still struggling with the width of the roadway. And at certain locations, it's a maximum of 30 feet. And at others, we have 35 feet to 40 feet. Saying all of that, to provide that the city has set out to offer. And that is a full 2 lanes of driving with stormwater management facilities and improve character, we're facing a couple of hurdles. Those hurdles include utilities and easements. So from that perspective, tonight, the department has prepared a memorandum for your consideration relating to both of those. Ms. Ripito has provided you the schematic of the utilities. The water company is going to stay on the west side of the roadway where their current main is located. They will begin work in April with a substantial upgrade, which I believe is going to address all of the problems we've heard from Stone Mill, Westridge Oaks, Bordeaux Estates about the pressure or the water pressure in those areas. This is a big step forward, and they've taken it, so to speak, bull by the horns, and they're getting after it. So this is great news. There are 3 other utilities, Ameren Missouri, Spectrum, and AT&T. We've engaged with all of them. We've met with 2 of the 3. All 3 are in design, and the intent is to underground those utilities. That'll improve the character of the street substantially. It'll provide a more reliable system of utilities. Unfortunately, the best location is on the east side of the street where we do have easements, but we will probably need another set of easements for temporary construction purposes. So all told, nothing's been easy on Center Avenue, but we're plugging along. And so tonight, the department is respectfully requesting 2 things. First, authorization to negotiate with a company like we've done for the Manchester Road and Old State Road shared use paths to collect those easements. The department did the 21 property owners for the rights to the street. It took forever because, quite frankly, we were fitting it in where we could. We had to track down people. It was just a difficult process. We went as far as Texas to get some of the easements, and that just took time. There are companies, we have one working for us now with Old State Road Shared Use Path. And I'd like to be able to at least negotiate and see what we get and then bring that back too. Secondly, given we're going to be working in people's front yards, I would like to engage a landscape architect to prepare a landscape plan to basically show the restoration and add back green. We're not taking out, I believe, more than probably a handful of trees at the most. But certainly, I think a benefit to this would be offering people a landscaping design that would engage them and make the street even better in terms of character. So those are the 2 requests tonight from the department. Authorization to solicit responses to the entity to collect the easements we need to proceed forward with the design, and then to prepare a landscape plan relative to the design of Center Avenue.
We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to move forward with
Councilmember
Arden's
Dodwell?
request.
I'll second, but I have a question.
Okay, so we've got a motion on the floor, we got a second, and then Councilmember Dodwell, and then Councilmember Rambo for questions.
Just real quickly, will our new, I'm trying to remember the title, landscape architect, work with whoever might be doing the tree replacement to ensure that it conforms with guidelines, et cetera?
Yes.
So we have someone to oversee it. Okay.
Awesome. Councilmember Rambo?
Yeah, real quickly, I just want to say that you have a real sales tool at your disposal. You're putting the utilities underground. I mean, prominently, that's a real benefit. And if you're, I hope that you don't have any resistance. Did you feel any resistance from any of the landowners there?
When we were meeting with Ameren Missouri out on the street, we had a couple people come out of their homes. A lot of it was just, I wouldn't necessarily say it was undergrounding. It's just the delay associated with the process, the condition of the current roadway. I hope there won't be, because between the undergrounding of the utilities, a landscape package that'll make the street and their homes basically flow together, I hope, so to speak, in terms of just aesthetics. I'm hoping that we can make that work.
And better water pressure.
Oh my gosh, that, like I said, that's for everybody
Yeah.
along the stretch.
So, but still, here is what we're doing. We're just asking you to let us trespass for a couple months while we get it done.
Exactly.
Just seems real easy to me. So
We just
best
need to
of luck.
communicate positively.
Yeah, and, you know, I haven't been invited to Thanksgiving dinner over there with any of the people, but we all are on a first name basis, so. So I hope,
Go early.
yeah, I'm pleading with them, we'll win the day as well.
Good luck.
Awesome. All right. So any other discussion? We've got the motion on the floor and a second to go forward with both of the steps that you requested, Joe. Without any further discussion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions?
And if I could do a quick footnote, if the company that provides the negotiations services for easements is over $10,000, which the city administrator then can sign, obviously it'll come back to you, and the landscape plan will come back to you for your comments and endorsement.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Next on planning matters is the reoccupancy permit programs development for rental properties, feedback from the public input session, and next steps. Ms. Riverton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members of the committee. We're back to our favorite subject, the reoccupancy program. As you're aware, we had a public input session on April 29th. In addition to, posting it as we normally would for a public meeting,
February 29th.
February 29th.
You said
Oh,
April.
I really did, didn't I? Sorry, yeah, February 29th.
Okay, I just wanted
It
to
was
make
leap
sure I
year,
wasn't.
didn't exist.
Yeah, you're working in that.
Forecast.
Right, I've already. So, yes, so February 29th, we have the public input session, and it was both via Zoom and in person. And hopefully the rest of the presentation goes better. Yes, so, in addition to advertising it and such, we did also send out nearly 1,000 postcards that included HOAs or multifamilies. We pulled addresses off of, non-owner occupant, homes that we were aware of from the last county data set that we had available. And with everything that we advertised, we had approximately 10 people to the public input session, and about 3, I think, on Zoom. One of them might have been Kurt Jurgens with St. Louis County. So not a great turnout, but we did have some fantastic questions, and it was very informative to those that were there. A lot of the questions were regarding, or concerns were regarding rental property being held to a higher standard than just regular single-family homes. And that, it's not just rental properties that have issues or property maintenance issues outside or anything like that. How construction done without a permit would be addressed if they found that when they were inspecting, or properties not meeting the current building code. And then there were concerns, of course, over the additional costs with the fees and or having to fix anything related to the inspection. And then there were also concerns regarding the allowable time frame for how long you had to get another inspection and or how long the occupancy permit was good for. So that being said, although the turnout for the public meeting wasn't all that significant, like evidently, the department has received a ton of calls. So I feel like the postcards that went out definitely, got the attention and brought awareness to those property owners that had rentals, generally single families. And so the majority of these questions have been regarding if people needed an occupancy permit now, and so once we said that it was gonna take place in the summer of 2024, and we were still in the midst of the process, there was immediate relief, and there wasn't even a whole lot of pushback. It was just, people making sure that they were doing what they were supposed to be doing and when they were supposed to be doing it. And we directed them to the website that will keep it updated, that will definitely have, something on the website with kind of like a go live date, after this date, you'll need to get an occupancy inspection. And so with those addressed, we didn't get a whole lot of pushback from most people. We did, again, have a few of the same comments, questions, and some of those some people were upset about having to pay both the city occupancy inspection fee and then also the fire department for those people that were affected by having to get occupancy permits from the fire department. There were additional comments that we did receive through the website that were included in your packet, and there weren't, I think there were two. And also the department met with Charlie Hinderleiter, the SVP of Government Affairs for St. Louis Realtors, and it was a really good meeting overall. We provided information clarification on the process, and he was very complimentary, and from his email today, was impressed with the thought, time, and intentionality the city is putting into this program. And we encouraged him to pass along the city's contact information if anybody else had any questions, concerns, suggestions. So those might be provided along the way while we're, implementing. So with these insights and suggestions from the public input session, the department is seeking direction on several regards. A, as to whether or not to schedule another public input session. And to that, I would say that, the high number of calls and the lower number of attendance would illustrate to me at least that perhaps another public input session isn't necessary. And we haven't received anybody angry that they didn't make it to the first public input session and been able to answer all their calls and answer any of the questions online. So that would be the first thing. And then the second would be, should we adjust the program to relative to any of these concerns? Because that was the next thing after the public input session is to decide if we're doing this right or if we should change something along the way. And I would say that concerns received regarding any opposition to the occupancy permit requirement could only be addressed by not implementing it. And then concerns regarding properties that don't meet building code or work without a permit. Essentially, the building code and the property maintenance code are something that we enforce now.
Mhm.
So it's not really, up for negotiation so much. And if work was done without a building permit, essentially, like, we require a permit for it now. So, there isn't a whole lot that can be done about that. But I don't think that it's gonna be a witch hunt with them out looking for people that, haven't gotten permits. Usually that's triggered by somebody seeing something that is concerning. Concerns pertaining to the additional costs by renters could potentially be addressed. The fees associated with inspections with St. Louis County are pretty standard fees, and that's, just what they charge. The only way that that could be changed at all is if the city were to, say, possibly like subsidizing the costs, in which we would be paying St. Louis County, some sort of, something to subsidize the fees on the permits themselves. The costs of associated with the actual occupancy permit, the department was recommending a $50 fee based on the estimated time it would require in order to actually maintain the program and such. But that fee could be lowered, and that wouldn't be a lot less hassle than trying to lower St. Louis County's fees. So that would be up to the committee. Concerns pertaining to the expiration of the permits. St. Louis County has a standard 90 days, which we would also be suggesting. And as far as lengthening that time period, that's 3 months. It's a quarter of the year, and a lot of change can happen to a property within said 3 months, even if the property is vacant. In some cases, especially if the property is vacant, there can be a lot of changes, and that's why there's a pretty standard 90 days as how long it's good. It gives you 90 days to get a renter. And if you don't, then yes, you will need another inspection. But a lot of people renting their property wait until they have a renter, because there's usually like a 30-day grace period in between there where, somebody's has to give 30 days notice, or they have 30 days on their, left at their lease at the last place. And so there's usually time in there. It's been my experience that there haven't been a whole lot of issues regarding that. And lastly, if we choose to not move forward with another public input session, then should we be moving forward with legislation? And if the committee feels that we're ready to do that, legislation is currently being reviewed by the city attorney, and we can add in any of the changes should we want to make them either in the legislation or just in our process before the city council meeting. And so it would be the department's the department would have that legislation prepared for the next city council meeting, so the April city council meeting, if that's the direction that we want to go. But that being said, tonight we are just looking for a little bit of guidance as to whether we need that public input session or should move forward.
Rotberg?
I think a second meeting would be entirely appropriate for public knowledge. I note there's still a lot of confusion regarding this reoccupancy process that I'm hearing from residents. They still don't fully understand what it applies to. And or understand the procedure for applying for the reoccupancy permit. So I would make a motion that we have a second public hearing at a date and time to be suggested by Director Bunich's group, and I guess that's it. That's my motion.
Okay, do we have a second on that motion? Second by Councilmember Flasher. All right, so now we have discussion on the motion to forego making any changes at this point and scheduling another public participation. Councilmember Dowdle?
I suggest we schedule a public participation meeting as early as possible so that we just keep this ball rolling, and hopefully at our April or May meeting, we can get this into our city council.
Okay.
agenda.
Councilmember Clark, did you have your hand up?
It doesn't pertain to the motion.
Okay. All right, so we got anybody else? Councilmember
Just
Marshall?
discussion in relative to relationship to this. I sat through the meeting, you guys did a great job. I still think the simplest way to get people to understand the difference between the inspections they're used to with Metro West, because you've got Monarch who doesn't do it, Eureka who doesn't do it. But the majority of the rental properties, in my opinion, are in Metro West district. But I pulled mine because I happened to have sold and bought a house during the time period with Metro West. I just think if you could provide a document, and I'll give you this is theirs, and you can pull it offline because it's 2 or 3 years old. This goes right down the list as to what they're going to inspect. And I think it'd be so helpful for the people to understand this is what they're doing, because if they get online and get it, this is what the fire marshal's gonna do. But then to show them what we're doing and what those differences are. And again, it'll be a little different for Eureka, for Chesterfield, or for Monarch, but I just think that was the confusion. People were saying, well, yeah, but I have to get this for the fire district, or I have to, and it is confusing. You know, I had to have the inspection done, then I had to do work, and then I'd have them come back. The house I was gonna buy, they had to come in and inspect it, and then anything had to be done to be back. So I think if we could come up with another document that said, these are the differences between Metro West and the cities, the county's inspection. I'd leave the county price where it is. I don't think there's anything wrong. I just think we need to make it real clear that you're not being, because they're not, they're paying taxes for the fire district. You don't pay for that. I mean, that you come out and that's part of their service. So in our particular, they're not paying a fire department for an inspection from Metro West.
I thought they were. I was under the impression.
Anybody have one lately? I don't think you pay for it. I think it's part of your fire taxes. That when you pay your property taxes to the Metro West Fire District, I think that's included. I've never paid for one, and
From the people that I was speaking with, that have had an inspection done, fire department required inspection, I heard $100. And that was their complaint, was that then they would have to pay
oh, well.
an additional fee for the
Can you
St. Louis
call
County
Metro West?
inspection
You
and our.
probably look it up and see, because you can pull the stuff up.
We should.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
even more of a reason then to explain what they're looking for
Mhm.
versus what we're looking for. Because there's some of the stuff on here, very same as ours. Well, then somehow it could be highlighted or shaded that, this is so if you're gonna pass it for Metro to get occupancy, it's already gonna be covered under ours. Whoever does it first, I don't know, but
We should find out for sure
Okay.
if there is a fee and what it is.
because that's a lot then. If you're asking 100 from us, 90 from or whatever the county is, and then another on top of it.
But
not-
we should know for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that we don't take somebody's word for it.
I know when 18 and 19, I didn't pay anything for it. That was just part of the,
I know that two of the cities, I think it was Eureka, and they offered a free inspection if you wanted to, but it wasn't a requirement. It was just if you'd like to have the fire department out to inspect, that they offered a free service. I don't remember which. fire
Metro West, you
department.
have to have it done
But-
before you could move in.
Yeah.
On the website for Metro West, single family, villa, duplex, triplex, it's $100. And for multiple family apartments and condominiums, $35.
So I just think that's probably where some of the confusion is coming from, but it's a pretty detailed list. And you know, some of the stuff you like say, why do I have to do that? But if you lived in a house for 15, 20 years, all the GFIs had to be changed, you know, so I mean, there's a lot of things just to upgrade it. But if you're gonna sell the house, you're gonna have to do that anyway.
Sure.
So, but I think that's probably where we could eliminate a little bit of the confusion. No, I mean, I don't think I have to apologize for what they charge. It's the fact that they're two different inspections. And I think that the counties would be a lot quicker too if they knew that the fire district was doing the same thing. I mean, there's only so many door locks and guards and things like, there's just much more safety. But I just think that was some of the confusion to hear people, because some of the people that were making the comments,
Yeah.
they were actually inspectors who would like to have the work and didn't want the county to do it. So I mean, I think that's the challenge that we have, so.
Sure, yeah, and we can also include that on our website, reference to their checklist.
Save a
as
lot of
well
phone
as-
calls.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. There have been a lot of people eager to talk to us.
Councilman Rambo?
Yeah, my opinion that I share with most of you is that more resident communication is better than yes, or less.
Mhm.
But my question is, there were only a dozen people that showed up at the last meeting. Is it possible to do one of two things? Can you work ahead before you have the second meeting and have a slightly different proposal for that second? You know, can you incorporate the changes from the first meeting into the document that you're presenting at the second meeting? And it's a two-part question. The other part is, can we possibly combine it with that meeting with the planning and parks meeting so that to keep the burden off staff a little bit? Because I know by hook or by crook, Chair Galani will get us done by 8:30. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many people show up.
We're done, you might not.
Well,
So I don't, I'm addressing that question to everybody because I don't know who to ask.
so I would say that the postcard that we sent out was pretty generic. It was just, hey, do you own rental property in the
Yes.
city of Wildwood? And it was, we wanna talk about it, you know, this could impact you. And so that being said, I'm not sure, like, are we gonna send out another 1,000 postcards? Cause
would
that was a
think
pretty
that's a lot of
costly
money.
endeavor. Right, so if we sent out that much, you know, if we advertised it that much and got not that great of a turnout, you know, I'm not exactly sure how much more we can do.
I agree.
Without going that route again and saying, hey, but now we're gonna discuss this. And I mean, we didn't even have many attendees via Zoom. But yeah, so I'm not really sure how we change
I'm
the.
trying to make it shorter and
I-
more efficient for you guys. And if everybody in here is willing, then we could just have it as part of our normal PMP meeting. And maybe tweak the agenda so it's not as.
Have we got a
burdensome or
second
something.
on the meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did we?
have a-
Okay.
Okay, this is discussion.
Still discussing.
Second.
So that's my suggestion. Do I need to do I need to modify the motion or?
We have the motion to have another meeting, so I think let's discuss and vote on the motion to have another meeting, and then we can discuss how we want to have that meeting.
Thank you.
Councilman.
Before we do that, could I ask another question?
Yeah.
We'll have to have a public hearing for this ordinance when it gets there, right? So maybe another option would be is we do it through another work session and then everybody who's been inquiring about whatever, we make it part of the public hearing before it goes to council.
That work too.
Director Rudich.
So I would ask the committee if it would be acceptable, that if we hold a second public input session, you give us a little latitude to figure out how we might garner a little bit more interest and at least bring more people or at least solicit more comments. And the reason I think we may be able to do some maybe more non-traditional means, many of you know Mr. Newberry participated in a leadership group. His task was the public engagement plan for the city of Wentzville. He came back with some kind of interesting ideas. So maybe this be an opportunity to see if we could do a little bit different way and succeed in doing the different way. So if you give us a little flexibility, I think we can probably put something together, get it to you via email, and at least get some comments back.
I think too, with the fact that obviously this isn't something that has to be implemented tomorrow per se. We're just going through the process of making sure we get it right, make sure everybody understands it. And, you know, if you come back to us in the April PMP meeting and give us your ideas on what you think would be the best approach for that public participation, is everybody okay with that?
Sure.
I would also, I may, say that if you're comfortable with it, our website doesn't have a whole ton of information on the process or again, you know, fire department or anything like that, but we've been like hesitant to put all of that information on the website because you know, we were waiting on the public input session, we were waiting on various things. And so I think that it would be helpful if you're comfortable with the process where it's at and with, you know, the steps and such that you've been provided in past documents, if you're comfortable with us putting that out there, you know, as draft, you know, so that it's not that this has been approved or anything. We can buff up our website a bit more so that people can be directed there if they have questions or are looking for more information or, you know, FAQs, like we'd be happy to buff that up if that's a direction that you'd like to go. And that might also help.
I think that's an excellent
Okay.
opportunity to provide the community with the information that they are looking for and reduce the number of calls, hopefully, or at least give you a place that you can easily direct
Sure.
individuals for. Yes, we put some information out there for you, but give me your questions now, but please refer to this site. And I think if we can get that pulled together before it even goes to council, that can only make this process easier.
I would agree. And it was just one of those things, you don't want to put the cart before the horse. And so
Yeah.
thought we'd wait till we
I
had some kind
think
of.
we've
Yeah, we're
had-
good.
I think we've had
Yeah.
enough
Got it.
opportunity for public
Councilmember
input
Clark?
to be able
Yeah,
to do
I
that.
guess I would be more comfortable with not putting all of that out there and maybe summarizing it and
Oh.
putting it in maybe a one-page summary of what is in that. Because if you put all of those details out there, you're gonna get overloaded with, well, I don't like this and I don't like this. So just putting that out there and maybe saving for the meeting, the community meeting or the hearing or whatever you have to maybe put up 2 big posters, you know. Megan makes those really big posters. You put those up there that has, you know, here's all the things your checklist for the city. Here's all the checklist for the county or the fire department or whatever we have. Put up these posters that show it at the meeting, but not send it out for everybody to get back with you. That was, and maybe even you could have a process, a flow chart that shows, here's the process we're gonna go through. Something more simplified than
Sure.
all of that information.
In my head, I think I was thinking more of like an FAQ. You know, these are questions that the city has been receiving regarding this, and these are answers as of now, but are subject to change. You know, rather than, I wouldn't want to put all the documents that we've, you know, made, even though they're all available in our packets online anyway, but they're all in draft form, and it would just be more of a, you know, these are questions we've received, and we figure everyone might want to know the answers to them. So these are the answers as of today.
Awesome. I think, so going back to the motion was to have a second public participation. And would you guys be okay with amending the motion to say that part of that extension for the second public participation is that the department will report back to the committee in April as to their ideas for the method of having that? Sure.
Yeah, I'm good with that, yes.
You guys good with that? Okay, so we've got that amendment to the motion. So with all that, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, very good. That, yeah.
Discussion point.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, talking about the costs involved. You know, as you were talking about the 90 days and then getting another inspection, maybe just to show our, you know, our good faith to the people that are out there having the problem with having to pay again, maybe it would be a lower cost for after 90 days to come back and inspect it again. If you have a cost for the initial inspection, but if they didn't rent it out the second time they come out.
Or just a waiver.
If I may. So as far as the inspection is concerned, that's St. Louis County's fees. And when it comes down to it, that covers the cost of the inspector having to come out and inspect it. And if the inspector is going back out, it's not gonna be a re-inspection. He's gonna have to go through all of the steps and inspect everything, just to ensure that, you know, I mean, because anybody could go through and, you know, do some fun electrical, you know, wiring themselves in between then and then. That being said, they wouldn't have to pay the occupancy permit fee because the tenant would likely be the person coming up and paying that. And so it'd be $50 less there. They just have to pay for the inspection. And so,
That's fine.
And the repeat visit, they don't have to pay again for that. So the county inspector is a one-time fee. Then when they come back after you've made your corrections, you don't pay again for that.
Just after 90 days.
I was gonna say the first inspection or the first re-inspection, like they give you time to fix the list of that they give you. And so the first re-inspection would be included with that. But then after that passes, that's when your 90-day window starts.
So it's a whole new inspection.
Yes, so it would be a whole new inspection after 90 days and that'd be through St. Louis County. The only way that we could subsidize that would be for the city to actually subsidize it with St. Louis County.
The second point is, speaking of flow charts before, I would have a flow chart for them to show what is this permitting process? What are all of the different places I have to get a permit? Because if you're new at it sounds overwhelming that, well, when do I get this one? Do I get this one before this one? You know, what is the flow?
You have a flow chart that you presented to us.
Essentially, yeah, I mean, it was kind of like a step-by-step written out, but yes, I think that would be pretty easy to put into a flow chart.
Okay. Awesome. Well, we've got that. We'll look forward to hearing your feedback in the April meeting and go from there. Takes us to the last item under planning matters, which is the recent development trends within the city of Wildwood. Does anybody have any discussion points or questions? Councilmember Clark?
Always. The temples, both of them. The Durga temple. What is the non-compliant lighting issue that they had, and is it resolved?
The Durga Temple has placed on the surface of the building wall packs. And they're not fully shielded wall packs. And they're not fully shielded, nor is the light directed down to the ground. And code enforcement officers have made a contact with the general contractor. And I hear it is in the works. So I'll give you an update when I can. But we've asked them to turn those off until such time that they address the problem.
And the second one is the Merkin Temple. Have they completed their list of tasks they should have to get the permit?
No. So as I've hopefully been, at least in terms of the city administrator reports, been trying to keep you abreast of what's going on there. The idol that they had told the city is key to the dedication or the sanctifying of the site was placed. They showed a walking path from a small parking area that was approved by Turkey Track Road. The day Mr. Newberry and I went out there to look at some grading issues with the leadership, they had taken that little walking path and made it into a gravel roadway, and then there was a parking area down by the idle location. And so I was very disappointed, and I explained that disappointment to the leadership. For the most part, they cleaned up some of the litter that was around, but they've done nothing else. And so from the perspective of the department, when there's a violation of code, really pretty much everything stops until it's addressed. And just maybe some, I know you all know this, but we have been told that McKelvey Homes has the reserve under contract. And their intent is to develop now all 124 lots. If you're not familiar with McKelvey Homes, most of their homes are in that $700,000 to $1 million range. So it's quite a change from Fisher Homes. And hopefully they've done a project previously doing Perfurbia. The word kind of was born out of that project. So actually, if there is a development that's going to occur there, it's a pretty good company to have do the.
So it will be a redesign. I mean, a complete clean green sheet, or clean sheet. redesign.
Actually, the gentleman from McKelvey Homes said they're gonna try to work best within the parameters of the ordinance. Now, again, it's a less dense project by body units.
Yeah, but
That's-
$1 million, $124 million homes will not fit in that 57 acres and still have detention ponds, and we're back to the same thing, I feel like.
George Stock, the engineer of record, and the gentleman from McKelvey Homes said they think they can make it all work within the parameters of the ordinance, and I'll let them prove me wrong.
Have they seen our, I'm sorry, I'm jumping in out of turn, I apologize, but I feel invested in this project. Have they clearly seen the objections that we raised the first time? Very extremely steep detention basins counting as common ground, and amended soils supposed to be making up the difference, and knocking down 20 previously unmarked grand trees and all those kinds of things. Do they clearly understand what the problems were before? Because I'd like to see something there, but I don't want an upscale version of the same dang thing.
Well, as you'll recall, the city council granted a accommodation to two projects, one being the reserve relative to the new tree preservation and restoration code. So I really haven't dwelled on that. I've made it in almost entirely as clear as possible to Stock and Associates. These bioretention basins are nothing but disasters.
Yes.
Because they may work well relative to the regulations and MSD will approve them, but we have homeowners associations struggling to maintain them. So I'm hopeful we can find a solution. And that's part of the site development plan.
The same with the trees, because it's a new, it's a new developer. They should be under our newest more stringent requirements. Is that reasonable to assume, or?
Because the ordinance was amended to accommodate the waiver, so to speak, to the application.
So it's the same application?
Well, again, the city council was presented a request to allow Ashley Grove, which is over on West Avenue in the reserve,
Right.
to be reviewed under the old regulations.
And that still applies, okay,
So,
even though it's a new developer.
yeah, but again, if they were to amend the ordinance, then all bets are off, and we'll see what happens. Okay. I think that's why they're trying to work within the parameters.
Thank you very much, Director Vunich, and for the questions. Go ahead.
Just
Robert.
as a little refresher, zero in on the location of the reserve for us, if you would please.
Oh, it's the 50 acres that basically forms the southwest quadrant of Route 100 and Route 109, just south of the Phillips 66.
Perfect.
C-store.
Thank you.
57 acres, and there's a part.
We just moved from the dirt to
My apologies.
that, so I was just trying to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good job.
About putting McKelvey on.
That had been dormant for a while.
I know,
Just wanted
I
to-
know.
That's where the old Target was gonna be.
There's a parcel east,
apologies.
east on the southeast corner. I don't know how many acres that is, but
66, I think
that's,
that-
Yeah, it's that whole.
that part is remaining. I mean, it's not part of the development, so.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes, regarding what we were talking about with the temples and the different things, I just wanna thank your code enforcement people that go out and do this, because that's such a thankless job. They just hear what's wrong, and from the people that are doing it wrong, maybe you don't wanna do it right, and so that job is probably very tough. I've never done it, but I would think that they need to hear that they're doing a good job from somebody.
Thank you, ma'am, and I'll make sure Brian and Frank hear that from me.
Thank you very much. That moves us into, and by the way, I would advocate that moving forward, we have Councilmember Clark go do that, because no one is gonna have a word to say to you. I'll be like, yes, ma'am.
You know what? This
We'll
could
clean
be
it up
a part of
today.
your second career.
My which second?
Yeah, you're
I've had
Yeah, she said.
many careers, so this would be like the fifth.
This will be the most thankless one you done.
Yeah, no, but thank you. All right, that takes us to park matters. 4 items for consideration. Keep in mind, we still have an executive session. So to Councilmember Rambo's point, we're a little behind schedule. Village Green bidding process. Director Vunich.
Just a couple of quick updates following on a lead from Councilmember Dodwell. Mike Walsh has reviewed the tree stand delineation plan, the tree preservation plan, and the landscape plans for Village Green Phase 1. Some modifications were made, and I note in the memorandum, we were able to save a few more trees, larger trees, which I believe are specimen trees. So kudos to Mr. Walsh and to our team from CDI that was willing to meet out there with us and listen to us kind of push to get these trees saved. Secondly, we're about at the stage where we're going to do the demolition of the trash enclosure. And so tonight, I would like the committee to endorse the following proposal. Originally, we had talked about moving the trash enclosures over near the Mayor's Grove and having them temporarily staged there. A while back, I was driving by the theater and remembered that we had 2 recycling containers down at the end of Wildwood Avenue. And so today I talked with Tim Phelan, our custodial person, and said, would that be major inconvenience if you had to basically go down to the end of Wildwood Avenue? And he said, absolutely not. It's about the same distance. And actually, that's where I usually end up picking up some of the trashes down in the police department. So if there's no objection from the committee, I think we can preserve the Mayor's Grove longer and keep the trees kind of intact and the parking there while the process is underway next door. And it would be temporary down there. I know it's not as it's unsightly, but I just think it would work so much better than kind of trying to manage it here in the parking lot area. So with that, I would ask for an endorsement of that location.
Sure. Motion.
I'll make a
Councilmember
motion.
Dodwell. Let me get a second, then we'll come back to discussion. Got a second? Teresa? Second? Okay, so we got a second on the motion. Councilmember Dodwell?
I just ask that you put some kind of signage up that says.
Video
"These-"
monitoring.
And, well, video monitoring never hurts.
Actually have.
Yeah, that's already out there, I think. But just some kind of signage so that the residents who go to the movie theater know that this is not a permanent situation.
We'll do some, maybe a couple things on the website and the newsletter.
Yeah, but putting a sign up there.
Well, the cans are already, and the bins are already there, right?
Yeah.
Councilmember
The
Roberts?
bins are already there.
We have those removed,
Oh,
so it's empty right now. But like I said, I pressed Bombshell Construction. They know with parking here, the community garden and the season starting, they're gonna press here first to get as much done on that common boundary line and then move to the west. So hopefully it won't be a long inconvenience. Certainly if anybody anything but enthusiastic about getting the project done as soon as he can for all of us. That's good news.
That's great.
All right, without any further discussion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Thank you.
All
I
right.
appreciate it. I think it's gonna work out so much better.
That's a great idea.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That takes us to the next item, which is anniversary park lot and driveway improvements. Director Vunich.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, the request before you tonight is fairly straightforward. The department did an inspection, as it does at the start of the spring season, on all of our parks and kind of discovered that the anniversary park drive aisle and parking lots gotten a little further along than we had thought. And so Ms. Ripito is showing some of the representations for photographs taken of the parking lot area. So tonight, the department is respectfully requesting authorization to go out and get additional bids for the resurfacing of anniversary park parking lot and drive aisles.
I will make that motion. All right, we got a motion on the floor. We got a second. And then any discussion on the motion?
expect the sticker shop.
Well, we have the $37,000, which was more than I had anticipated.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful with, I'm probably gonna contact T Hill, who's done a lot of our street work. And Cal also, just to see maybe we'll.
The problem is the components are, this is going up.
Yep.
All right, well, we've got the motion on this.
Obviously, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
And obviously, if we get these, if the proposals are equal or greater, this may be something we wait until maybe the asphalt market kind of simmers down a little. So we'll let you know. You'll see the bids, obviously.
Okay, so the motion on the floor in a second is to allow the department to go out and get bids to have this taken a look at. And so with that being said, without any further discussion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you very much. Which takes us to the final two items under park matters, which are the Wildwood Recreation Programming, update on current future offerings, and the facility reservations, event registrations, and ongoing long-term maintenance costs for the parks and trail facilities. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns related to any of them? Councilmember Clark?
I gotta get all this in.
I,
Regarding the programs like Hometown Heroes, would it be possible for volunteers like ourselves to stand outside if we got permission of like, say, Deerbergs and Schnooks and hand out flyers about this to get the word out to more people and, you know, something that a volunteer could do to help spread the news about Hometown Heroes, for example?
I'm definitely not opposed to it, if that's something.
You check if you would need a solicitor's license.
Yeah, we probably would.
You could also, that community board inside, you can, everybody hangs things on there. I'm surprised how much stuff gets taken off of there. If you walk out, you'll see where people are pulling tags off it. Maybe just putting a flyer on that bulletin board would be helpful
Or
too.
maybe a little box that goes onto the bulletin board, you put flyers in it. Just some way to get out like a little flyer that shows, you know, because this is a great, I think a lot of people would jump into this if they knew about it.
Well,
We
it
do-
could also go up as one of the items on our website where we've got, okay, the mayor's survey and it needs to go up there too.
could get a Times Square style LED sign that go across the whole side of the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See
Yeah, you will
Councilmember
need a
Rambo
solicitor's-
No,
yeah,
then
you're
you
gonna
will
need a
be
solicitor's
seeing
permit for that.
People.
Can't
after
wait
your
till you see
picture,
the bids for that.
Yeah. We'll have a lot of public participation on that one.
Just an update.
Yeah,
That's what I was gonna say. We do have, we've received actually 2 more Hometown Hero banner orders today. So I think we are up to 11 new banners. And we also reached out to the participants from last year's event, and we're rehanging most of those. So we'll have nearly double the amount of Hometown Hero banners
nice.
along Manchester, but we have also, we're also ordering, you know, Hometown Heroes ahead, Hometown Hero banner or display, I think it was ahead, that will be down Taylor Road, so that, you know, it kind of gives people some direction and it's not just a Memorial Day or a Veterans Day thing. And on the back of those, half of them are gonna say, thank you for your service, and the other half are gonna have the for more information QR code. So that hopefully it will put it out more and make it, you know, more of a statement that this is a thing and keep going for the actual banners. So we're doing our best to direct as much attention.
Thank you
If
very
not, I'll
much for
go.
that. Councilmember Godwin?
I have one other question. From a personal standpoint, I had to make a reservation for a park here in town. And when I went out to the site, because I was looking for stuff during the summer months, et cetera, we didn't have the reservations up yet. So I would just like to make a suggestion that at the beginning in March, that we put up all the way through the fall, the ability for residents to start reserving our various park situations.
Just, we do it on a 3-month increment.
Mhm.
I'm not exactly sure why, so let me find out.
Let's make it a 6-month or a 9-month. So
Get your money earlier.
you get your money earlier, you get your reservations earlier for those who look earlier.
Okay, thank you very much. We're gonna,
Stacy and Chris.
Yeah.
without any further questions or comments regarding those items under Parks Matters, we now will move to our executive session. So that's what we're
I was
gonna.
just gonna
Oh,
make the motion. to-
Okay, so yeah, so we'll take a motion to go into executive session.
Yep.
Councilmember Rambo, seconded by Councilmember Bachelor. And we'll take a roll call for that. So,
Okay, Chair Galani,
yes.
Councilmember Bertoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell.
Yes,
Councilmember Marshall,
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember Flasher.
Yes. And just so you guys know, we're going to go into the council chambers to do this, so we don't have to shut everything down in here.
okay,
That way we can just walk there and walk back. And leave your phones here, please.
yeah.
How are you? Good. I came running from baseball. No,
They're there for 3 days.
yeah, 3 hours.
Is she
3
okay?
hours.
We have
Oh,
bills to pay here.
Ms. Rubenstein, let me know when you're back on. Back on, okay, so that takes us to not ready for action, planning and parks matters. Anybody have anything to do with that? Okay, and then we have no other matters for consideration. The next meeting would be Tuesday, April 16th, 2024. And with that, actually, I just want to say, obviously, a lot of us won't be here at that next PNP meeting. And there's some that for sure won't, and then there's some that may won't. So with that being said, I just wanted to say that I've really enjoyed being the chair of this committee for this past session, and I appreciate you guys all giving me the opportunity to do that. And it's actually been my favorite part of my time on council. And out of all the committees I've had the pleasure of serving on, this has definitely been my favorite group. So thank you very much for that. And you guys have all been amazing to work with. The discussions have been great. And I know when we all walked in here this evening and saw the full room, we were thinking to ourselves that we may be here till midnight. So we're not. And we're still gonna get out of here before 8:30.
I'm keeping an eye
With
on.
that being said, I just wanted to say thank you. And if anybody else has any remarks or miscellaneous, Councilmember Clark?
I do have miscellaneous, and I want to thank everybody too, because I've really enjoyed the group and being together, and I won't be here because I didn't run this time, so. But I've enjoyed working with everybody. As far as the miscellaneous, though, there are a few things that I wanted to point out before I'm gone is, do we have a code enforcement? What code enforcement do we have for clutter and debris in a home within the town center? Because I have seen a home that's very cluttered. I was a little concerned about that.
If it's on the exterior, we have both the zoning ordinance, the miscellaneous regulations from deal with litter. We also don't have property improvements. It's on the interior. Asking if we can help, there's really not much.
I'm speaking of on the exterior, and if it's not cleaned up,
Please let us know. We'll
I'll get you an address. Second is the historic house that's on Old Atherton over at Oroville, you know, that historic house. I've always been curious about it and a little concerned. It's just standing there and crumbling away. Is there something that's gonna be done with that, or is it just left? I know that the owner doesn't live in the state, but just curious.
Well, it's always that kind of push and pull. Do you press to have the asset stabilized? And then the owner says, well, I don't want to spend the money, I'll just tear it down. Or do you just kind of give some leeway and see, hopefully that somebody would see the property, make the commitment, and then proceed forward with the restoration? Sometimes it works, most of the time it doesn't. So it's really, it's a call that we have to make occasionally. And the worst thing can happen, and that was the Pond Hotel. We started pressing the owner on that particular property after a portion of the roof slumped into the interior. And the next step was he tore it down.
Yeah,
I'm open to suggestions or direction.
well, it would be interesting to learn the history behind it first to know. But
Probably have that, don't we?
I have the perfect person for that, and her name's Robin Keefe. Let's see what we can find out. for you,
well,
okay?
yeah, because it's a very interesting, and if I was a kid, I probably would be in trouble for going inside that house to find out. I was wondering where we're at with the Pertner Park Committee.
I'll kind of pass that off all to you to kind of organize your selections and get them to the mayor. I don't know if that's been successful or not, but I kind of pestered you all for several months in a row, so I'm kind of not wanting to keep being the fly that's around your ear, so to speak. But we'll have something on in April. How's that?
Okay. Thank you. I'll be listening. And as long as you're working with the water pressures around, over in my area where we use the water tank, that pond water tank, water pressure's really bad. So if you ever want to really make a lot of people happy.
I
Do
have
something with that.
heard that there is something going on with that tank. So I haven't, the department's not received any plans, but there was a call that came in relative to the plan. Maybe Travis may have talked to the individual. See what.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Councilman Rambo?
I'm very sad to report that I'm retiring my Teresa Clark pastry fork because I will no longer need it.
You can still come.
I guess I could probably leave it a legacy item. But I've had many tasty morsels off of this fork.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
It will be different with us.
It sure will.
I don't want to spoil the
Good
moment,
luck picking that up.
but since the council only meets once a month and the election is on April 2nd, it takes approximately 2 weeks for the Board of Election Commissioners to certify the election, which means it'll be
May.
after the April 8th city council meeting.
Oh.
So I think you're gonna be stuck with Melanie and I for one more. meeting.
Well, that's good. I'll
Awesome.
be happy to be there.
Can we put a pastry order in right now?
Yeah.
Don't throw that fork away yet.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, well, does anybody else have anything?
No.
No. All right, we'll take a motion for adjournment.
We'll do
We got
that.
a motion, we got a second by Councilman Rottenberg. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention?
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good meeting.
Awesome.
Saying our.